Alan is playing marbles alone, and another kid named Louis arrives. Louis asks if he can play marbles with Alan. He happily says yes. They bond, and when they find an abandoned factory, Alan suggests that they should look inside it. Louis is hesitant at first, but later follows Alan inside the factory. They come across a wooden plank that is suspended high above the ground. Alan crosses the plank with ease, but Louis is afraid to cross it. He reaches the halfway point with no complication, but later he gets scared because of the height at which the plank is suspended. Louis loses his balance and falls off to the ground. Alan is terrified to see what has occurred in front of his eyes. He goes down to see Louis and checks if he's okay, but much to his fear, he finds out that Louis has passed away. Alan gets more scared when his feet touch the blood of Louis, and he runs out of the factory, leaving Louis behind alone. As Alan is not a resident of the city, he soon leaves with his parents. Many years later, an eye-tech company invented a new device that would be implanted in newborn babies, called the Zoe implant. The purpose of the device is to record the entire life of the individual. After the passing of the individual, the entire recorded life would be edited by professionals called the cutters, and the edited versions will be presented at the individual's funeral as a memorial. Codes have also been set up for cutters that they can't break in any situation. Those include not selling or giving away Zoe footage. Cutters will not have a Zoe implant, and they will not mix Zoe footage from different lives for a re-memory. Alan, who is now a grown man and a highly proficient cutter, is editing the recorded footage of the recently deceased Dr. Monroe. Monroe's brother has come to see the footage and is in awe to see how a person's life can be completely recorded. As Monroe's brother leaves, Alan edits out and deletes Monroe's memory, where he was being completely violent to a woman. Alan meets his colleagues Thelma and Hassan. Alan asks Thelma if she has any jobs for him. Thelma explains that the longtime lawyer of the eye-tech company, Charles Bannister, recently died, and his wife is looking for a cutter. Thelma says that she didn't take the job as the recorded footage of Charles showed her that he wasn't that of a good human. She is assigning Alan to do it, who agrees and would meet with Charles' wife soon. Alan heads to a local bookstore, where he meets his lover, Delilah. After she closes the store, she goes to Alan's apartment. Alan introduces Delilah the device through which he edits deceased people's recorded life, the guillotine. Alan asks if Delilah has ever seen recorded footage of any person. She replies that she has seen the memories of her late ex-boyfriend, but couldn't go through the end as she wants to remember him in her own way. Alan then shows Delilah the recorded footage of the life of a man. Delilah asks Alan how he can perform all of this, to which he replies that he was born to do this. They make love soon after. The next day, Alan goes to meet Charles' wife and she goes through the important moments of Charles' life. She lets Alan know what she plans on keeping in Charles' memorial and what is to be excluded. Alan wants to know more about Charles, and for that reason, he needs to find out about him through Charles' wife and daughter, Isabel. Charles' wife is a bit hesitant in allowing Alan to meet her daughter, but later she agrees when Alan says that it's important for a cutter to interview the close relatives of the one who has passed away. The time has arrived for the presentation of the memorial footage of Dr. Monroe, and Alan has finalized the recorded life of Dr. Monroe. Many anti-implant protesters are outside the building, and they have been protesting that no company can be allowed to do something that is regarding recording a person's complete life journey. While the footage is being played, Fletcher, a former cutter and an old colleague of Alan, arrives and lets Alan know that his profession is nothing more than creating lies out of people's lives. It has been 8 years since they last met each other. Alan doesn't have time to catch up, but Fletcher wants to talk about something really important. Fletcher makes it clear that he intends to take the Charles project. As it is a cutter's code that projects cannot be simply handed or sold to others, Fletcher still makes an offer of $500,000 to Alan if he hands him over the Charles project. Knowing he would be breaking the cutter's code, Alan refuses to sell all of the recorded life footage of Charles. Fletcher tells Alan that he is living in the real world now, and cutter's codes don't mean much. Alan says that some cutters like him do follow the codes. After the memorial ceremony of Dr. Monroe, Alan goes to pick up the entire footage of Charles' life that was recorded through the Zoe implant. He goes back to his apartment, and the guillotine begins to sort Charles' recorded life into different categories. In the meantime, Alan begins to read more about Charles. Alan, then, begins to work on editing Charles' recorded life footage. He finds one particular footage, in which Charles takes his daughter to his study room, and he can see that Isabel was always sacred around his father, indicating that she was subject to abuse by her own father. Alan edits that footage, leaving no evidence that Charles was not innocent to his daughter. Alan goes through another footage of Charles' memory in which he has thrown a huge party at his home. In that memory, Charles goes to meet a man who is wearing very thick glasses. Alan immediately pauses that footage and begins to have thoughts that the man might be Louis, who fell from the suspended plank in that factory many years ago. Alan instructs the guillotine to find out the identity of that man. Alan begins to have deep thoughts about the kid he couldn't save, all those years ago might still be alive. Alan goes to meet Delilah to freshen himself up. Delilah finds him frustrated and stressed out. As she can't leave early due to work, Delilah advises Alan to separate himself from the guillotine and give time to himself as well. Alan then goes to meet Thelma and wants to talk to her alone. Alan informs Thelma that Fletcher met him yesterday and he wants to buy the Charles project. Thelma tells Alan that Fletcher's sister went insane after watching the recorded life footage of her young son. He died because of leukemia. She watched the footage of her son to the point where she couldn't distinguish between anyone, couldn't realize Fletcher when he was around her. Alan assumes that Fletcher might be involved with the anti-implant protesters in some way. Alan tells Thelma that he can't give away Charles' project now because he has found a person in Charles' life footage whom Alan intends to find. Alan is planning on meeting Fletcher again, but before he does, Alan buys a gun for his protection from a local dealer. Alan meets Fletcher, who once again tells Alan that a cutter's job is immoral, as it's only up to an individual to remember life in his own way. Alan reminds Fletcher that a cutter's job is to help people remember what they want to remember. Fletcher says that all a cutter does is make murderers look like saints. Fletcher wants to expose the eye-tech company by using Charles' Zoe implant as evidence. Fletcher says that Charles' wife decided to get the right of Charles' implant, something that has never happened with an eye-tech employee before. Fletcher also believes that Charles' wife might be hiding something about Charles and his daughter. When Alan asks Fletcher if all of this is about Fletcher's sister and him wanting revenge for what happened, Fletcher rebukes him and warns him to not bring up his sister ever again. Fletcher tells Alan that he would be the one to work on Charles' project no matter what. If Alan won't hand him over the project, he tells Alan that with the help of his associate, he will forcefully take it away from Alan. Alan goes to meet Charles' wife again, and he asks her if he knew about the man with the thick glasses on. Charles' wife doesn't show any interest in Alan's question, and makes it clear that she wants Alan to make Charles' memorial footage all about his family, career, and community, and leaving the rest out. Alan meets Isabel, and tells her that he can relate to what Isabel is feeling. He has lost his parents when he was a child too. Isabel isn't very enthusiastic when it comes to disclosing anything about her father. Upon asking if she knows who the man with the thick glasses, Isabel answers that the man's name is Mr. Hunt. Alan is more elated to know that his complete name is Louis Hunt, signifying that he might be Alan's Louis. Alan gets frustrated when Isabel lets him know that Louis died in a car accident a few years ago. Hassan takes Alan to a place where the records of all those individuals are kept. Alan hopes to find the record of Louis if he really had an implant in the first place. Alan wants to know if he actually caused Louis to fall badly all those years ago, as he can't remember much about that incident due to his old age now. Alan looks through the records and concludes that Louis never had an implant. All of a sudden, Alan stumbles upon his record, indicating that Alan's parents agreed to give Alan an implant when he was born. Alan is baffled as he was not aware of this, mainly because an individual would find out about the implant from his parents when he is 21 years old, and Alan's parents died when he was just a child. Therefore, he was never informed of his implant. For days Alan is depressed because a cutter was never supposed to have an implant, and he had been doing his job with an implant for years now. Fletcher and his associate plans on breaking into Alan's apartment and stealing Charles' project. Alan goes to the anti-implant protesters, and many of them have found a way to deactivate the implant of an individual. Alan, who doesn't want to live with the fact that he has an implant, allows the anti-implant woman protester to deactivate his plant. The woman successfully does. Alan returns to his apartment and finds Delilah there. She has found out that Alan was viewing the past memories of Delilah's late ex-boyfriend in order to learn about Delilah more. Delilah goes on a rant that her ex-boyfriend's memories with her should only remain between them, and no one else has the right to view them, including Alan. Delilah snatches the gun from Alan and shoots the guillotine, destroying the devices and Charles' implant as well. Alan shows it to Hassan, who says that it's impossible to fix the implant now, meaning that Charles' life footage is gone forever. When informed about Alan's implant, Hassan knocks him out. Thelma and Hassan question why Alan kept his implant a secret from them. Alan explains that he found out about it himself a few days ago, otherwise his late parents would have told him about it if they were alive, and Alan would have never become a cutter. Alan wishes to see his past life, but a person has to be dead in order to retrieve his life footage. Hassan has performed this procedure on an alive individual before, but it comes with critical and deadly consequences. Alan agrees to these consequences. When Hassan performs the procedure, Alan goes through his past memories that also involve the funeral of his late parents. Alan goes back to the time when he was with Louis. Alan finds out that his feet had actually touched drip paint instead of blood, proving that Louis had survived the fall and was all right. Alan is relieved that he didn't hurt Louis in any way. Alan returns to his apartment to find Fletcher and his associate looking for Charles' implant. But Alan informs them what actually happened to Charles' implant. Fletcher informs Alan that he will still be coming back to Alan for any notes regarding Charles he has kept. Alan informs Charles' wife about what happened and lets her know that there's nothing that could be done to bring back her husband's implant. Alan goes to visit Louis's grave and wonders what actually would have happened if Louis was still with him. Fletcher arrives and informs Alan that he is aware that Alan had an implant. Fletcher now wants Alan's implant as Alan had seen Charles' memories through his eyes. As Fletcher chases Alan with a gun, Alan tries to dodge Fletcher any way he can. Soon Fletcher's associate arrives and shoots Alan for good. Fletcher begins to work on Alan's implant and starts to retrieve Charles' memories, which Alan saw before having his own implant deactivated. Fletcher promises that Alan's life will lead to something more meaningful.